Hi, and welcome to The Grief Between Us. I'm Patti Merrill, chaplain and founder of The Waiting Place, a nonprofit grief center dedicated to creating space for honest conversations about loss, love, and the complicated journey of healing. I'm really grateful you're here. Whether you're grieving yourself, supporting someone you love, or simply wanting to better understand the human experience of loss, this podcast is a place where grief can be spoken about openly and listened to with compassion. So wherever you are today, thank you for joining me. Let's begin. Okay, so excited. We're on episode 11, and I have with me today Darlyn Remington. So grateful for this opportunity. Darlyn is a mother and a grandmother and a wife. Did you say 36 years? Almost 36 years?
Yeah, our anniversary is in May, 36.
That's exciting. That's something to be proud about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And you have 3 children. They're
3
all
children.
married.
Yep.
And 6 grandchildren.
6 grandchildren and 2 on the way. 2 are coming in May.
Both in May.
Both in May.
That's so cool.
Super exciting.
Your May is going to get very busy.
Yes.
Do you have other grandchildren in May as well, or any other birthdays in the family?
Some sons-in-law that their birthdays are in May.
Yeah,
so it'll be busy month.
Get busy. Yeah. 5 of my 8 children are born in May.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure what I was
Great
thinking.
month.
My twins were supposed to be born in June. They decided they needed to come a month early.
They wanted to join the rest of them.
They're like, May is the party month. And you, I think what really connected my heart to you from the beginning as we got to talking with each other is that you, like me, are passionate about helping other people with their grief.
Yes.
And navigate that journey. So it led to some really great conversations that I felt like I wanted to share with our listeners.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, what a blessing you are in my life. So today we're going to be talking about layered grief. And that's like, when you feel like you have one thing that comes in, ruptures, causes grief, before you really recover from that, something else comes on top of that.
Yes.
And on top of that. And it gets to the point where maybe you just feel like, I don't even know how I can address any of this.
Right.
Because they're all kind of crammed together. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. And you've experienced this kind of.
Yes. I mean, I've experienced a lot of different types of grief in my life. Sometimes not even realizing that I'm experiencing a loss, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think for the sake of time and just highlighting a few, I think probably 3 of the bigger ones were when I lost my grandson, Theo. And then back in 1993, we had a traumatic incident with my siblings and parents happen that it tore our family apart. And so for many years, we didn't have a relationship with my parents and several of my siblings, which was a big loss for me. And then I have children that were diagnosed with mental illness, bipolar disorder, and that's a loss that you just don't realize that is a loss because you have these dreams for them, you see how their path's going to go, and then when they get diagnosed, it just switches the pathway for them. And so that's a heartache for them.
Yes. As a mother before your children, as well as for themselves, I'm sure.
For themselves,
and then as a mother, helping them navigate that.
Right.
Becomes a burden.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean.
At times.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of losses that are layered on top of each other that you just try to learn to navigate. And figure out ways to process them and learn skills of how to deal with them better.
Yeah. So you named a year for the family, 93. And then what was next?
Then it was
the diagnosis of your children.
The diagnosis, yes. Yeah. And then Theo passed away in 2021. It's probably the most recent big.
Yeah. Well, let's start there, if that's okay. I'm curious about that as a grandmother, what kind of grief that brings to a grandmother's heart.
Oh yeah, super hard because you just are so excited to meet a new little grandchild. And my daughter Eliza, she's our youngest, and this was her first time getting pregnant. And they actually got pregnant with twins. And we don't have any twins in our family. And we were just so excited. She was so excited. Jessica had already had a little boy. So Dirks is our first little grandson. And they found out that they had the twins, and we were looking forward to that. And then after about 4 months, unfortunately, they called them baby A and baby B,
Yes.
and baby B passed away. So that was a little tricky because she had a miscarriage, but yet was still carrying a
Yeah,
baby.
I wonder, haven't thought about that. How do they do
Yeah,
that?
they just let the baby B stay there while
Mm.
she nurtures and nourishes
Yeah,
baby A, who was Theo. And then they discovered that Theo had a heart condition, some different complications. So each meeting that she would have with her doctor, each appointment, it almost felt like there was another bit of bad news, and it was just traumatic each time she would
every
go to the
time.
doctor. And so Theo was born in Utah, and so they had him born up at University of Utah Hospital so that they could rush him to primary children's. And the plan was to do surgery and many surgeries.
Yeah.
But right from the beginning, they needed to do something right away to help get oxygen to his brain because of the way his heart was not functioning correctly. And unfortunately, about a day into his life, the doctors realized he didn't have one of his kidneys, and his heart actually had more problems than what they originally saw in the womb. And so they talked to my daughter and her husband Sam and said, we just really worry and feel that he will probably pass away on the operating table because you need to have all your other organs functioning tip top, and they wouldn't be because he only had one kidney. And so he was in the NICU, had wires attached to him and an oxygen mask, and they couldn't really snuggle him or hold him. And so the doctor actually said, he goes, if it was my son, I would take him home and just have some snuggle time with him for as long as he lasts. And so, because if he dies on the operating table, you won't
That's,
get those
yeah.
snuggles. And
Yeah.
so they made one of the hardest decisions ever, took their little boy home. And me and Sam's mom and dad were able to be there for the 18 hours that Theo was alive and got to hold him. And it was hard. And as a grandmother, you're watching your daughter just aching, right? And
Yes.
so my mother's heart is just aching for my daughter. And then, of course, my grandmother's heart is just breaking because of grandson. That was super.
And I don't want to name any emotions or thoughts for you, but I, as a grandmother and a mother, think the helplessness that you
Yes.
feel.
Yes. You
Like
want to take
there's,
away the pain that your daughter and your son in law are experiencing, and you just can't. You hug them and you cry with them, and you hold your little grandson and look at him and look at his face and try to memorize his features, knowing that he's could pass at any time. It was really, I think, the hardest loss that I've ever experienced.
so what did care for your grief look like at that time?
Yeah, it's interesting how, because I'd actually already lost my parents, which I was very sad losing my
Yeah.
parents. I'd lost a nephew, and again, with the mental illness and other losses, this one is the one that kind of just kicked me so hard that I thought, I need help. I need help with dealing with grief. And I'd already done therapy for other situations with our family, but not really grief therapy. And so I I'm the type of person that just wants to learn as much as I can so that I can figure it out. After Theo passed, I did take a grief course, a 12-week grief course, so that I could learn as much as I could. I read books on grief. And then in my church, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was called as the Stake Relief Society president, which is over hundreds of women. And I realized in my area where I lived in Modesto, California, there were many women who had lost their husbands, many people who had lost loved ones, and there were a lot of people grieving silently by themselves, alone. And since I had just lost Theo, I thought we need to do something because there are a lot of people hurting. And so I started a grief support group for the women in that area, or for
Beautiful.
anyone really. It
Yeah.
was just tended to be more women that showed
Mhm.
up. And that was really cathartic for me
Yeah.
as the facilitator, because I was able to talk through my grief, but then also hear from others that, wow, there's a lot of people that have experienced loss, and you just sometimes don't realize it because we put on that happy face when we're at church and we act like everything's fine when deep down we're just sobbing
Yeah.
inside.
And I'm finding it takes just, I have a hard time using like the words courage or brave connected to myself. I don't necessarily think I'm a courageous person or a brave person, but I do want to say that sometimes it just takes that moment of saying, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to be transparent about something in my life. And you share it with just the right person who is like, it knows somebody else felt that way too.
Right.
And then you have this connection, you have this ability to not just help them, but to allow them to help you. I actually just had that experience this morning. It was so beautiful. I don't know. I just had this moment where I just felt like I'm just going to speak the truth about a certain situation. And this other woman was like, that's exactly what I feel and am going through. And she was like, I didn't know I had permission to speak that out loud. Like, I feel like we're best friends now all of a sudden, you know?
That's wonderful.
And
Because you have that connection.
we have that connection and we can hold that safe space for each other. So it's beautiful that you did that in this community of people who were grieving and had no place to do it. And it helped you and it helped them.
And I have to give credit to my former stake president's wife. Our stake president passed away in a tragic car accident. And this was before Theo passed away. And I knew his wife, and we weren't like super close friends, but I knew her. And I think I probably sent her a card of, condolences, but didn't really connect with her that much. And then when Theo passed away, I called her and just said, how have you managed your grief? And she said, I went to a grief support group, and I said, well, we need to start one for our community. And so she told me about her grief support group, and she helped me start one.
That's so beautiful.
And then I just had so much more empathy for her. And I apologized to her and said, I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you as much, because now I know how painful grief is.
Yeah. I had someone ask me the other day, or not ask me, but talk to me. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this. And we were talking about empathy and how once you've gone through something, you have this empathy for other people, right? And so this person was saying, so I feel like I can have compassion for this other situation, but not empathy because I've never experienced that. And I incline to disagree. I believe that empathy can be learned if we choose to, that we can sit in a space with someone who's experiencing or experienced something that we never have, and we can still hold an open space for them empathetically. What do you think about that
my
idea?
thought is, and this is just Darlyn, is
I
I have two thoughts, actually. I think that in my own personal life, the more things that I've experienced, the more empathy I have grown in my heart, where I just, I called right away my stake president's wife and said, we need to go to lunch. Like, I am so sorry for the hurt that you went through. And so I think that it is true that when you've experienced, you can just relate so much deeper. However, at the same time, I remember watching a Brene Brown video.
Yeah.
Maybe you've seen it, where there's a difference between empathy and sympathy.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Too often we just try and be sympathetic, like, oh, I'm so sorry. That must really hurt, but I kind of don't get it, but I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
And, sticking your head down in that hole, that hole, can I give you a sandwich? That's sympathy. And I think you're right. If you crawl down in that hole of their depression that they're sitting in, and you sit by them and you say, I don't know what you're feeling, and I see that you're hurting, but I'm here. And I just want to sit with you. And that's what my daughter and my son-in-law really needed.
Yeah.
They wanted people to just come sit with them. But people are funny with grief. They get so scared and they don't know what to say. And so then they just avoid, which that's the last thing people need is, there's a time and a place for people to just kind of like, I need to just cry and be on my own. But then they're craving some connection. And a lot of people wouldn't connect with them because they just didn't know what to say. And I wished I'd known how to tell people, you don't need to say the right thing. Just go sit.
Yeah.
Just say, I love you. I care about you. I'm here for you.
After my daughter died, one of the most powerful things that people could do for me is they would just come and let me talk. I am an external processor. I think I've said this before on other episodes, but and it was so healthy for me to just talk. And I would talk about things connected to God that I believed, but I don't know if I knew. And in that moment, as I would say, well, this is what we're taught through, the scriptures, it started to be true to me and bring me comfort. And I was so grateful for people who would come and just sit and listen to me and not try to fix it. And I was telling somebody just the other day in connection to my husband's death, he suffered for a very long time. He was miserable. And when other people say to me, well, at least he's not suffering anymore, it feels very dismissive.
Yes, don't understand.
Not like very, like you don't really, okay, right? He's not suffering, but let's talk about me. Because, right? But if I say that, that's allowed. I can say, I'm so grateful he's not suffering.
Because you're the one that's experiencing the pain. Oh, that's a good point.
So I wonder, how we help people understand that, because we want to jump in and fix it.
Right.
And if we don't feel like we can fix it, then we pull back.
In fact, in that Brene Brown video, she said, if a sentence starts with the words "at least," then don't say it. Well, at least they, you have other children, or at least they're in a better place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I catch myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And to the credit of Eliza's friends and church community, they did reach out to them with meals and flowers and things. It's just after a couple of weeks went by, then that stopped, right? And then the people that she was hoping would come and just really be there for her, I think they were too afraid. One of the things my daughter did say, for those of you who deal with grief, you may be this type of person too, chocolate always helps. She said, there's nothing anyone can say or do to take away the pain that's in my heart, but chocolate also kind of helps lift some of the pain.
Love that. And that she can name that, right?
Yes.
Sometimes
bring me chocolate.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes to say, what do you need? I don't even know.
I don't even know what I need.
But to know one little thing like that, right? That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Backing up to when one of your children received the diagnosis, what did that mean for you? And I don't know, some of my curiosities about it is, was there a moment where like, wow, this makes a lot of sense now? It explains a lot of what might have been going on. It gives you some answers. And yet also at the same time, it's this huge rupture that takes place. Like, that's not what we wanted to have happen.
Yes. That's why I kind of tie in mental illness and grief together, because when they talk about the 5 stages of grief, so there's the denial and the depression and the anger and those stages that you go through. I feel like you go through them also when you have a child that's diagnosed with mental illness, for the child and for the parent, where you're like, wait a minute, what? My child has bipolar disorder?
Yeah.
Number one, what is that?
Yes.
And why? This is so unfair. They were just right in the prime of their college years and had just gotten married literally 3 months before he got diagnosed. So this is my oldest, Jake, who was diagnosed 3 months after he got married. And so then you're kind of upset and not necessarily, I don't know that I necessarily ever get angry with God, but I'm just angry about the situation, that why is this happening? It's so unfair. I feel like that the grief that you feel about having your child receive a diagnosis with mental illness is very similar to just losses that we have. My daughter talked about ambiguous loss. A lot of people don't know what ambiguous loss is, but it's those types of losses where it's not the death of someone, but it's the loss of your unmet expectations and child leaving on a mission or leaving off to college, where those are losses.
Yeah.
So both my husband and I and my son just really grieved that his life was going to change drastically for the rest of his life. It'd be very different. And that was hard to go through, but we realized that we're going to get through it. We're going to be okay. And gratefully, he's one that medication and he manages it. And each year that has gone by, he's got better. And then we realized that our daughter Eliza, she was showing symptoms of depression, and we thought she had major depressive disorder, but it turned out that it was actually bipolar disorder type 2, so 2 types. Type 1 is more manic and more difficult, and type 2 is more depression. I guess I should say more difficult, but a different type of difficult, as mania is different. So then we had that, and then my daughter Jessica deals with anxiety and She went through a stage of major depression, and so all of my children here, I was thinking our family was so perfect and everything was going great, and then just all these losses one after the other where
Yeah.
your heart just breaks for them because it
Yeah.
changes their trajectory
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Did you ever feel, and this doesn't have to stay in, or I mean, we'll do whatever we need to do with this, but my own curiosity is, did you ever feel like, what did I do that perhaps caused this in my children?
Yes, absolutely. I call myself a recovering toxic perfectionist, and I think that being raised by a parent that has toxic perfectionism can cause a lot of stress on children. And there is correlation with mental illness and stress.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm the only cause, but I do think that probably contributed. So of course, then you go back and you blame yourself for what's the history? Did any of my great grandparents have bipolar disorder? Because it's genetic, and my husband is a neurosurgeon, and so that's high stress and very competitive. And so, yes, there have been times where I've felt sad that maybe our parenting possibly contributed to their dealing with depression and anxiety and says, but I'm not going to blame myself completely because we're parents and we just do the best we can.
Yeah.
And mental illness isn't just because of how you were parented.
Yeah. And so that was kind of, you led right into my next thought and questions, like, how do you navigate that and not sit there with that and continually just berate yourself, and move past that?
I think there's lots of ways. Therapy has been very helpful for our family. Our daughter, Jessica, is a marriage and family therapist, and she met a therapist that she introduced our whole family to. And so we actually did family therapy because we'd all been kind of doing individual therapy for different issues that we were dealing with. But the family therapy brought us together where she could see the dynamics that was going on with dad and son, mom and daughters, husband and wife, in-laws that were then now coming in. And that was super helpful. So I think therapy was very helpful. And then I'm religious, and I just truly believe that turning to God many, many times where that was my go-to is just get on my knees and just pray and say, I can't do this anymore. This is too hard. This is too heavy for me to carry. I need the Savior to lift my burdens and make it lighter. And I felt like my scripture studies really changed because I was looking specifically for verses that were going to lift me. And there's so many, they're not coming to mind right now, but just so many that talk about that, I will carry your burdens and I will be there for you and I will help you through this. And if you just have faith and trust, it's going to be okay. And boy, I highlighted those. And that was kind of my grief journey right after a lot of these losses happened, was just really trusting in the Lord and praying a lot and delving into scripture.
What comes to my thoughts is, as you did that, as you searched the scriptures and as you prayed and you felt this, were there moments where you felt like you weren't receiving the answers? You weren't receiving comfort?
I think it's more that maybe it wasn't as much as I wanted because I just want it to be taken completely away, right?
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't want to feel the heartache. And so, for example, my son would call me and I could tell that he was depressed and I could see that he wasn't going to class or something because he was so depressed and couldn't get out of bed. And I would just be cheering him on and trying to say the right thing and praying to Heavenly Father, please help me say the right thing. And I'd get off the phone and I'd be exhausted and just think, this is draining and
Yeah.
this is so hard. But you just keep going. You have to. I mean,
Yeah.
you just keep striving to hope for a better day the next day. And that's what I would actually tell my children when they would call and they would be down. And I would just say, it's going to be okay. The sun will come out tomorrow. And we'd sing our little song from Annie.
There's a song that I love that says, never has there been a day when the sun didn't rise.
Oh,
And I love that too. Same idea, right? So, I think about others that might be listening who might be struggling and feeling like I'm trying, I'm praying, I'm reading the scriptures, I'm doing these things, and I don't feel what I want to feel
Right.
and how to give them hope. And I just think that you being here, being able to talk about this and name this can give hope.
I
So
hope so. One of
thank
the other
you.
things that I will sometimes say to my children and even to myself, I need to practice what I preach. I'm so good at giving them advice and then I forget to give it to myself. And that is the eclipse. I mean, people will travel miles to go and watch an eclipse. And we all know what that is that the moon gets in the way of the sun. But how many of us think that the sun has disappeared? We know that it hasn't. We know that it's there. But grief and mental health and those kinds of things that are just such a loss inside can make you feel like you're living in an eclipse and you just think it feels darker. You don't see the sun. So sometimes you don't feel God's love. You don't feel the spirit as much. But I just try and remind them, you know that the sun is still there and you know that eventually the moon will move and you will feel the warmth again and you will feel its light, see the light. And
Yeah,
so it's
it's
going to
beautiful.
happen. But it's just hard sometimes when the eclipse is really long
Yeah,
and they just wonder, when is it ever going to move? I'm waiting. When am I
yeah,
going to feel that
yeah. That's a
warmth?
beautiful analogy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to have the right people with you during that time, right? To
Yes. In your
find somebody
support
to
system.
accompany you. Yeah. And if you don't have it, try to create it. I think that's what you did. You created that grief support group as much for them as yourself. What a beautiful example that was. Hey, sorry to interrupt. This is Patti. Just before we continue, I want to share something briefly. As the founder of The Waiting Place, a nonprofit grief center created to support people as they navigate loss, and as a chaplain, one of the ways that I offer support is through grief companionship, which means I'm simply walking alongside people in their grief journey with compassion, listening, and spiritual care. If you or someone you love could use that kind of support, you can visit thewaitingplacefoundation.org, go to the community tab, and then click on programs and services to learn more. Or you can go directly to the contact page to reach out. It would be my privilege to sit with you in that sacred space and accompany you. Kind of going back to these different experiences you've had, and I wonder how they affected each other. Like, do you think having had this rupture previously in your family with learning about your children's diagnosis affected how you were able to hold that grief for Theo? And having gone through that with Theo, still navigating the mental illness situations with your children, do you feel like that experience with Theo has helped you navigate your children's situations better or differently?
I think absolutely. I feel like there's so many emotions involved in grief, sadness, depression, anger, fear, worry. I mean, the list is long, right? It can
Yeah.
go on and on. And I think as experience those and process them and go to therapy and read books and learn skills and put things in my toolbox to
Yeah.
help me do better next time,
Yeah.
that I think absolutely it helped in preparing us for the loss of Theo. Just being able to watch my children deal with their mental illness and try and navigate how to help cheer them up and help them find joy. I then kind of had to do that to me when we lost Theo. I needed to remind myself, hey, remember you gave your kids some of these tools and reminded them that their therapist gave them these tools. You need to now get those tools out and use them as you're grieving the loss of your grandson.
Yeah.
And there were days where I was really good at it, and there were days where I just curled up in bed and said, I don't want to get out of bed today because I'm just so sad. And I just would bawl and cry and say, life's not fair, and I want to get to know my grandson and that he was here.
Yeah. When I tell my therapist how many days I didn't get out of bed in a certain week, she always says, I'm proud of you. Good job.
Good. That's
I'm
great.
grateful for that. I
Yeah.
think I spent more time in bed this last year than I have in any one year of my life. And sometimes that feels really like I'm failing, like I'm not,
Feed ourselves.
and she's always good to be proud of me.
I think that shows that you are showing yourself some self-compassion.
Yeah.
And we need that, because that's the other thing I have to remind myself is that if my bucket's empty, I can't be there for my children and grandchildren
Yeah.
or my husband. So I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. And if that means staying in bed longer than normal, then okay. And that we need to not guilt trip ourselves and say, I'm so lazy and I can't believe I'm doing this, but rather say, helping to take care of myself.
Yeah.
That's important.
Important. You've mentioned to me before that you and your family or some of your family went to is it the National Alliance of Mental Health?
Yes.
You went to one of their conferences, and this was before Theo passed, right?
Correct.
So I'm curious, like, were there things that you learned there? Obviously, there were things that you learned there that help you navigate with your children and how to help them and be a support of them and maybe navigate your own grief connected to that. Do you feel that there were lessons that you learned there that then were applicable to after losing Theo?
Yes. And even my daughter, Eliza, the mother of Theo, she mentioned, because she went with us to the NAMI conference, and we all just learned these skills of how to help loved ones who are struggling, who are grieving, who are depressed, because that all comes with mental illness. And because we learned those skills, she said she felt more prepared for the loss of her son because she had done those things to help take care of herself with her own mental illness. And that prepared her. I mean, can't really be completely prepared, right?
Yeah, for
Losing
sure.
a loved one, it's a stab in the heart and gut punch to your stomach, but it was, I think she felt better off by having learned some of these things, that
Feels.
because she went through a lot of depression,
Yeah.
and then she learned how to process that and work through it and take medication that helped her, that then she was in a better space for. So grateful for that. Those are tender mercies, right?
Tender
That
mercies,
have helped us
heartbreaking
prepare.
and beautiful,
Right.
to recognize that. I know that there are experiences that I had in my life before my daughter died that I would look back on and like, wow, that was preparing me.
You.
And for sure with my husband's death, the same, so many moments of preparation that like God was just trying to, throw that life raft out there.
Yes.
And for us to catch. That's
Grateful
beautiful.
for that.
I think what I'd like to make sure I touch on is, so last week I had the beautiful opportunity to come to a workshop that you facilitated. So tell our listeners about that and what that's all about.
Yeah, my daughter, Jessica, who's the marriage and family therapist,
Who, by the way, I forgot to say, she's episode 5. So those of you who've been listening, her daughter is the Jessica from episode 5.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. So we decided about a year ago to collaborate our skills. She's the therapist, and she's also a dancer too, but that was my profession. I majored in professional dance at BYU and have done a lot of teaching of dance and just watched how much joy it brings people. And so we decided that we would learn more about dance movement therapy. We didn't create it. It's out there, and we kind of have been studying it. She took a course and I've been reading things, and we've been working together on coming up with a class or a course that we could teach, whether it's like a 10-week course. And we've been creating dances to different emotions. So we created a dance to grief. We created a dance to joy. We've been working on dance to depression. And we just feel like movement of your body is very different than therapy with talking. And that was one of the reasons she kind of brought up the idea to me, is as a therapist, she sits and talks to people, which is very helpful and it works for a lot of people, but some people need to move their bodies, and that's how they really feel the emotions more. And so we saw that BYU Life After Loss was looking for people that were willing to come into workshops. And so we volunteered and said, we'd love to. And so that was just last weekend on Thursday night. And so grateful that you came. Thank you. And we felt like it went really well. We taught both grief and joy. And the reason we wanted to do both is it's common for us when we're hurting so much to just say, I just need to be happy. I just need to do things that cause joy and just watch happy movies and only listen to happy music. But that's almost in denial of the fact
Yeah.
that you're hurting inside. So we wanted people to feel the grief first, dance to a song that was very sad and actually talked about grief and just let those emotions out, and many people were crying when they were doing that dance, and then do an opposite of grief, which is joy. They did the really fun,
Yeah.
upbeat,
Yeah.
spunky, happy dance that then just felt joyous and
Yeah.
good. And what we wanted our participants to understand is that you can have both in your life at the same time,
Yeah.
and that that's okay to be feeling sad and joy, that you don't just have one.
Yeah. Which is a hard concept. I mean, I just think we're in society and just life in general, we think either or. It's, I'm either happy or I'm in my grief. And if I am happy, it must mean I'm not grieving anymore, which then we start to have real conflict about that,
Yes.
which brings guilt for feeling
Yes,
happy. I mean, and it just is this spiral quickly down. But to understand that it can be a both and situation.
for sure.
For me, what was really, I don't know, surprising, I do love to talk about things and
Mhm.
it moves it. And as I talk about things, I start to have epiphanies just on my own. And then to have another perspective of the therapist or a friend, or it's so beneficial for me. Um, but I felt compelled to come to the workshop. As I thought about it, I'm like, this actually sounds horrific to me.
Most people, they hear the word dance and they're like, "Nope,
I
not
don't know what
going."
it was. When I
Like
was
a
a
fear.
youth, when I was a teenager, I loved to dance.
Mhm.
Something happened along the way and I become very inhibited and it's hard and so I had this really strong feeling like I should do this because I have such a visceral negative reaction to wanting to do this, right? Which I've learned when my body says, "Ooh, don't do
Yeah,
this." I'm
you
like,
need to.
I gotta do this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really glad I came and just leaned into that discomfort and started to feel even a little bit that it would be helpful, that it was helpful. And you had us ask ourselves, and the point that I journaled was, I think something about like, what is your body asking or saying to you?
Needing.
Needing. Thank you. And what I wrote was, I felt like my body is saying, I need more of this. And so then comes this argument, like, I don't know how to give you more of this right now. This is really uncomfortable. So I know you have future plans to be able to offer this type of work on an ongoing basis. I am excited to see that move forward for you because my
Yeah.
body does say, you need to do more of this.
Well, the nice thing about dance movement therapy is you don't necessarily have to go to a class to accomplish it.
Yeah.
You can find a song on your phone and dance in your bedroom and no one sees you, so
Yeah.
you can be as awkward as you want and cry and bawl as much as you want.
Yeah.
But we encourage people, if they do this on their own, if you're going to pick a sadness song, then find a happiness song. If you're going to pick a anger song, then find a happiness song,
Yeah.
because you want to experience the opposite, not just, it's okay to sit in the grief, but not too long,
Yeah.
because you want to be able to feel that opposite as well.
Yeah.
And we saw this just even after the week of that Theo passed away. He died on a Wednesday, and I think it was a Friday night. We were watching a movie together, and we were just enjoying being together. And then all of a sudden, my daughter just started sobbing, and she's just like, "What am I doing? I'm not supposed to be having fun. My son just died. Why am I watching this movie? We need to stop." And I reminded her that her social worker had actually said to them when Theo passed, one of the healthiest ways to grieve is to allow yourself to experience the opposite emotions, and that you're going to have minutes where it's, I'm sad and then I'm happy, or you're going to have hours where 1 hour you're happy and 1 hour you're sad. You're going to have days where one day's totally great and next day is just, you can't get out of bed. And she said that's the most healthy, is to allow yourself to experience those two different opposing emotions. And so we reminded her that and said, cry,
Yeah.
let it out, let's sob, and then let's turn the movie back on.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And
Yeah.
don't feel guilty. And she even said sometimes when she would go to church a few months after he'd passed, she almost hesitated smiling and being happy because she was worried people
But
would
other
think,
people, yeah,
wait, you just lost your son. Why aren't you crying and sad? Like, why are you even here?
yeah,
Kind of a thing.
yeah,
When it's okay to
yeah.
be joyous.
It's a societal thing, right? And that's, I mean, I think what I really am trying to do, and I feel that I'm not alone in this desire to do this, but to start to change the way society looks at grief and the myths that are about that. The weekend after my daughter died, I had family in, I had friends in, and I had two friends in particular that they know how to make me laugh. Like
Nice.
I'm going to split my side. I need to go to the bathroom and laughing
Type of
that hard,
laughing.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember there was this moment where we were sitting on the deck and they just had me laughing. And a family member walked by and the look on his face was like, how dare you?
Right.
And it just shut me right down. And then he moved on and my friend said, Patti, it's okay.
It's okay.
And they helped me to feel that again, that was a beautiful moment for me, but it was also a really hard moment for me.
Yeah, we don't want to crawl in a cave and live there
Yeah.
for the rest of our lives and say, this is my proof to you that I'm grieving and
Yeah.
I'm never going to have joy again.
Yeah.
No, we don't need to wear black every day.
That's right.
We can still be happy and laugh and do fun things.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the participants in our workshop, she came up to me and said that she was laughing a few days after her son passed away. And her husband was like, why are you laughing? It's like, because it feels good to me and I need it. Like I need that joy. Otherwise, I'm just going to be sobbing all the time.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. I have enjoyed our time together in this discussion and just connecting. It means a lot to me. I do want to give you the last word. Like if there's anything that you might be able to say to somebody who's feeling these layers piling up and they're all starting to bleed in together, what would you want to say to them?
I think first of all, and that's maybe because I'm a dancer and so I listen to my body a lot. And so really listen to your body. Tune in when you're feeling neck pain, stomach ache, anxiousness, nervousness. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think too often, there's a book by Jane Clayson Johnson, Silent Souls Weeping, and it's more about mental health and that type of thing, but it's also can tie into grief where why do we suffer silently? It's okay to reach out to a friend, and sometimes it's hard because we don't have it in us. But when you get that gumption enough to call a therapist or a friend or a bishop or a spiritual leader, I think we need to really listen to our body and do what is going to be best for us to heal and to not be afraid, to not let the stigmas get in the way, like, oh, I'm embarrassed, I'm going to therapy, there's nothing wrong with therapy, or I'm doing a dance movement therapy class and I'm dancing really awkwardly, that's okay. But to just show yourself some self-compassion. And remember that as we talked about the eclipse, the sun is going to come out and the moon might cover it again and you may feel sad again, but that's the whole thing with grief is it's up and down, up and down. Some of the roller coasters are really big and some of them are really low and other times they're just little ones and we're just kind of maintaining. But I really believe that you can still live a hopeful, joyful, happy life, even carrying grief at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. This is fun.
I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to do this.
Appreciate it.
I think it'll be meaningful to a lot of people.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me today on The Grief Between Us. If this episode and the things we talked about resonated with you, I would be so grateful if you shared the podcast with someone else who you think might enjoy listening to it. The more these conversations are shared, the more we can help create spaces where grief is understood rather than avoided. Until next time, take gentle care of your heart.